MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Buckeyes. We've got Pat Murphy on the line from Bucknuts. Of course, the Buckeyes are preparing for their huge semifinal matchup at the Fiesta Bowl with Clemson. And National Signing Day is just a week away on December 18th. Urban Meyer certainly addressed this with a first ever shot at a early signing date. Of course, traditionally the first Wednesday of February is when everyone is signed. But we've seen that the early signing date has taken over about 75 to 80% of the signees for Power 5 teams. And so it has almost become the National Signing Day. And there's a slight disadvantage for teams making a conference championship game in which it takes away the focus from the recruiting to the opponent. And especially when that conference championship game has a playoff berth attached to it as well. So, of course, this hasn't derailed Ohio State's recruiting efforts by any stretch, but I know that Urban Meyer addressed that the first year that he had to deal with it in regards to, okay, what is this going to look like and what are we going to need to do? And as soon as they beat Wisconsin, they were hopping on planes and buses and cars to get back out on the recruiting trail. So obviously they've got a lot of work to do in regards to preparing for Clemson, but also preparing for this early signing date.
It's interesting. Ryan Day talked about this last week. They were calling kids as other teams were visiting them and hey, sorry, we're not going to be around this week. We've obviously got the Big Ten championship game coming up. And the response, at least according to Coach Day, was that kids were like, that's a good problem to have, Coach. Take care of your business, that thing. And that's a lot easier to say when you're Ohio State and you have the number 4 class in the country, the number 1 class in the Big Ten, pretty much already wrapped up. They've got most of the guys that they want hard verbal commitments ready to sign. Ryan Day said they're going to have, he believes, 15 early enrollees come in January. So these kids are all pretty committed. They've had this class pretty much locked down for a while, which is an advantage in that situation. But as soon as they could get out on the road recruiting, they did. This Sunday, obviously, they waited to hear the playoff announcement. But we spoke to Ryan Day quickly after Ohio State was announced as the number 2 team in the country, and that was an abbreviated press conference so he could get out and get on the road. When we talked to him on the Big Ten teleconference later that day, it was clear that both him and Coach Sweeney were out recruiting somewhere. So, and if you followed guys on social media, you'll see they're out visiting, prospects across the country, making sure everything's in place for signing day for the guys they expect to sign then. And also, working in some other guys. This class isn't going to get much bigger. They might take another running back or so, maybe another quarterback, a couple other positions, just depending on who's available. But like I said, this class has been pretty much locked up for a while. They don't expect any surprises really. And there may just be a few additions as we move forward here to this signing day, and then obviously the one you mentioned later. So yes, it's certainly, you lose a week of recruiting, but you also, either get to say you won the Big Ten championship like you did in Ohio State's case, or Wisconsin able to say, hey, we played in another Big Ten championship. That's and like I said, in Ohio State's case, most things were already all but signed, sealed, and delivered for this class.
Christmas is coming, folks. Shop Amazon. Use the link in the description section below to help us build the channel. It's the same shopping experience for you. Jeff Hafley, his name has been connected strongly with the Boston College job vacancy with Steve Adasio's being dismissed. Certainly, this is nothing new for programs across the country, and especially Ohio State. And when you have elite coaches and you're succeeding at this level, then teams are going to come after your coaching staff. Have they talked at all about, or is there any indication of, how time will be divided? And certainly he's not been hired for the job, but the way this has been played out in the past in these playoff and bowl situations regarding Ohio State's coaching staff.
I would imagine if Jeff Hafley is hired at Boston College, which it seems like he's at least their leading candidate. Our Bill Green has reported that the ball's kind of in Hafley's court in terms of, deciding if he wants this to be his first head coaching job. He's definitely a guy who wants to be a head coach, just making sure everything is the right fit. But I would assume if Jeff Hafley does take this job, that it will be very similar to what you've seen around the country at most places. And Ohio State obviously has had this happen before with coaches, is that, his focus during the, his focus during work hours will be with Ohio State, and Ryan Day will expect him to continue to do his job as he has, throughout this entire season. And he's done a great job at it. He'll have to then on his own time be, calling recruits for Boston College, trying to get coaching staff in place, everything like that. He also is, if we were just talking about recruiting, he's been a very great recruiter for Ohio State this year. And there were questions about that coming into the season. A guy who'd been in the NFL for so long, how would he handle recruiting? Well, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, he's the 4th best coach in the nation when it comes to recruiting, and 2nd in the Big Ten, only behind Ohio State's wide receiver coach, Brian Hartline. He's landed a number of top DB prospects for Ohio State. Cody Simon, Cam Martinez are 2 others. So he's been very good, and Ohio State will certainly miss that going forward if he is indeed hired. So there's a lot to think about. And obviously we were just saying signing day is coming up. They've got to close out this class. Jeff Hafley is a big part of what this class has been built. So, I expect when there is an announcement on Jeff Hafley, and if that announcement is that he's leaving for Boston College, or if there's another job that he ends up taking, he will fulfill his commitments. He's very committed to this team. You can tell just from talking to him, this year at Ohio State has meant a lot. He's gotten to do a lot of things that he wasn't sure he was going to be able to do, in terms of competing on an undefeated team, winning championships, and now competing for a national championship. So it means a lot to him. And if there's another job, obviously that will mean a lot to him too. But I'm very convinced a guy like him, he'll finish kind of what he started here before he dives 100% into the other job, which is what I expect Ryan Day will ask of him or any coach coordinator that gets a job before the Buckeyes season is done.
Join Pat Murphy at Bucknuts. It's on the 247 Sports platform for Ohio State football. And of course, like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Pat, thanks so much for stopping by to again break down the Buckeyes.
Absolutely, anytime.